just want to start off by saying I'm really sorry about last week. Last week, I had a lot of problems at home with a sink and with drilling and with plumbing and with all different kinds of construction work. So it wasn't really a good conversation club environment at all. But now you can hear everything is quiet. There's no drilling. There's no water anywhere, so it's all good. Again, sorry for that. But anyway, today we are talking about music, as was the suggestion. So we're going to be talking about, I guess, music in general. You know, what kind of music we listen to, what sort of trends we see with popular music and with music in general. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. All right, well, let's start with the first question, which is what kind of music do you listen to? Denise, let's start with you. What kind of music do you listen to?
Mm, I listen different kinds of music because for me, different music is more comfortable or interesting for different cases. For example, I can't listen to classic or rock music when I'm working, but sometimes when I work overnight, it's a good idea to listen some more light and melodic music. Also, sometimes it's interesting to listen modern classic music because it's very strange, very interesting, and sometimes hard to percept, hard to understand how it built, how what is harmony contained in this music. So I have three different directions. It's music for work, music as percepting something new, trying to find some new ideas, new harmony, new aesthetic,
Okay.
and
Right.
music as music to go. It
Okay, so
has some kind of music middle of both directions.
right. Music for work, music for discovery, and yeah, music to go. That I like that. It's really good, Denise. I mean, those different varieties, different purposes of music, because there definitely are. Ella, what about you? What kind of music do you listen to?
I also listen to different kinds of music. Um, mostly, I listen some modern music, but sometimes I prefer so and sometimes it can be also blues or jazz. But mostly I listen it in my car. So mostly this is more than pop music.
Okay, so this pop music. I'm trying to think what kind of music I listen to, and it's a good question. I mean, it depends what's on, right? It depends where I am, like you were talking about, Denise, what purpose there is. If I am at home, honestly, I very rarely have music on. I'm not quite sure why, but when I'm in the car, it's on quite a lot, whether it's the radio or it's my iPod or maybe even my phone that has some songs downloaded onto it. I honestly I like classical music very much, but I don't listen to classical music very much. I enjoy going to classical music concerts. I enjoy experiencing classical music as an event, as an experience. I like to see the instruments that are playing the music that is being played. This is maybe the way my brain works. I grew up listening to classical music quite often because my mother is a huge classical music fan, but personally, when I listen to classical music, I get very nervous because somehow my brain, my instinct wants to see what is happening, what instruments are playing. And this whole cacophony that you get when all these instruments play together, for me, is very overwhelming. And it's part of the reason why I just don't listen to classical music at home or anywhere else for that matter, other outside of concerts. Although I played, you know, classical music when I was in orchestra as a student and everything else. So again, it's more of the experience, I think. I listen to a lot of pop music. I listen to a lot of pop music, not well, of course, in English, because English pop music is everywhere in the world, I guess. It's kind of like by default everywhere. You walk into H&M, and of course, they're going to be playing English pop music. It doesn't matter where the artists are from, they're still going to be singing in English because it's this whole sort of international trend, right, to sing in English. Although some of the times I really don't understand what's being said. I listen to a lot of pop music, for example, in Russian. I listened to a lot when I was first in Russia. I thought it was a good way to learn the language because Russian pop songs tend to have a lot of phrases that you experience in the real language quite often. And it was kind of a useful thing to hear. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. I like folk music too. Folk music, basically anything that's kind of got that maybe traditional feel to it. And that's basically from any culture. I think that they're very interesting sounds, and it's very interesting to hear how that singing tradition has lasted through different ages, and also how it's modified to keep up with the times, because you see a lot of that maybe fusion or something like that. But no, I listen to basically anything that I hear. Whether I like it or not is a different story, but I listen to just about everything. All right, next question. Well, we already kind of discussed this, all of this, whether it's in your car or at work or something like that. But where do you think is the place that you listen to the most music? Let's ask it that way. Denise, where do you listen to the most music?
It's hard to distinguish, to split there, because usually I listen a lot of music when I have some big amount of time without any possible activities, like flying on airplane or waiting for somewhere. Because in most cases I listen music rather small amount of time, few minutes. Sometimes in subway, but it's hard to say that listen, because even in rather powerful headphones, it's hard to listen in the high quality. It's too many noises around.
Okay, Elia, where do you most often listen to music?
Mostly I listen in the car, as I mentioned already. Sometimes I listen to music while jogging or doing some housework. And sometimes I listen to music for my English classes, for some English children's songs, something like that, or some music, for example, or we are searching for music now to make a short performance about Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, that sounds like fun. What kind of music are you searching for?
So mostly we decided to use that very playlist which was used in the last movie on this book, but also some more. For example, we're going to use Emiliana Tarini White Rabbit song. Okay, so things like that.
Okay, that sounds good. It sounds good. Yeah, but yeah, that's an interesting thing. So you definitely use songs, music for language learning purposes too. Like you mentioned, looking for these English songs, children's songs. They're definitely very useful tools. I I also, I mean, yeah, the car. The car is a very important place for me to listen to music, basically because the radio's there, you've got your own little bubble, you don't have to worry about other people listening. If people are in the car, maybe it makes it a bit more interesting sometimes, but it's still all good. I definitely listen to music in the car most of all. And then I was going to ask the next question, which is what do you think is the most popular genre of music? Denise, what do you think is the most popular genre of music?
I don't know, because it's hard to. For me, it's rather not good determinant what genre is, because most of genres is really it's a mix of different properties, and it's sometimes overlap or mostly a copy of one of them all. So it's a some meta genre like pop music, but in different times pop music was different. Like pop music in time of Beatles and modern pop music, it's two completely different things.
True, true, true. I mean, yeah, popular music, of course, changes. That's the whole sort of thing. It's an evolving genre, or whatever you're going to call it, evolving genre. But that's interesting. I mean, yeah, it's hard to answer that question. What exactly is this genre? What about you, Elia? What do you think? What do you think is the most popular genre? I mean, can you define that?
I think that the most popular genre is, of course, classical music, because it is something like ABC for all other genres. So that's why I think it is popular among everyone. So it doesn't matter whether you are a singer or just listener, or you prefer this genre or that genre. Anyway, you're acquainted with classical music somehow, in some way, and so it is. I think it is basic genre. So that's why I think it is the most popular.
Okay, yeah, timeless it is. People are listening to it everywhere, right? I mean, it is kind of interesting to know that basically anywhere in the world you're going to go, there's going to be this classical music. So it is very popular genre. I think in part I agree with you on that about classical. On the other hand, I kind of think that yeah, that whole idea, that whole notion of popular music, what exactly is popular music? I think we have to ask ourselves one that question, and then also see, how these different songs are being played on the radio and whatnot. And yeah, I think that the most, maybe perhaps partially too, the most popular so-called genre of music is whatever the radios are deciding to play, which is of course another question, why are they playing these songs? But yeah. Anyway, why do you think, which leads us to this question, why do you think that certain genres, certain songs are played on the radio? Denise, why do you think? Why do you think that they play these songs on the radio?
Um, this question is not clear for me. What genres are playing on radio, or why some genres are played on the radio much? What is the direction of this question? Okay, so first moment important for me, it's many different radios, and not there is some quantity of mainstream radios, but and it's trying to set some popular or possibly popular in future music. But usually I'm listening to not so mainstream radios. Often it's some internet radios. For example, some few months ago, I find in near 1 week, listen much one small radio from very small town in Great Britain, in England, and there was a very pleasure set of not well-known, probably some local groups, with rather old school composition. It's like a 17th soft rock music or something like this. But it was very melodic, very interesting, and well-maintained sets of music. So, for example, also some times ago, I tried to listen very experiment radios, was directed by some guy from South America, I don't know, not Chile or something like this. But it was an extremely experimental composition. many electronic music, some hybrids of ambient and psychedelic music. It was very interesting, but I can't listen such kind of music a lot. So there is very different radio. Also, there are few radios with specialized on music from different epochs, like beginning of 20th century music or early 16th music, something like this. So it's music genres on radio depends on position of radio. If it's not a fully commercial mainstream radio, of course.
Right. I mean, there are different kinds of radio stations. There are, of course, the ones that are mainstream, the ones that are for profit, they're ones that are maybe supported by universities or, maybe some other organizations. So it really depends. And there are lots of different directions that you can go with there. What about you, Elliot? What do you think? I mean, why do you think that certain music is played on the radio? Why do you think the decision is made to play? I don't know what songs are even popular today, but why do you think those songs are being played?
Um, I think that every radio station has its own, how is it called in English, audience, aimed audience. So
Target audience, target
yes,
audience.
target
Yes.
target audience, and so the genre of a music which is played on the radio mainly I think depends on that very target audience. So if you target for young people, you play one kind of audience. If you are targeting for adults, so you are playing another kind of music. And there are some radio stations, they are playing only classical music and or some blues. There are some blues channels and jazz channels. So I think nowadays there are there is lots of choice. But mostly, of course, there is popular music. These radio stations are rather big and popular, and they're making their charts. So, because most people like that very popular music.
Right. I mean, yeah, those are the songs that people like. Or, I mean, are they really the songs that people like, or do they like them because they listen to them? These are all the kind of questions that we have to ask ourselves. Like what came first, the chicken or the egg? The song on the radio that you like, or the radio play because you like the song? These are all the sort of questions that we have to ask ourselves sometimes. Of course, I mean, there are a lot of good questions that we can ask about why certain songs are played on the radio. Why different radio stations evolve and change over the years as to what kind of songs they're going to play. These are all the sort of things that I think we've probably, we're not teenagers, so we know that a lot of the radio stations that we listened to at one point in time or another have changed uh, a lot in terms of course, the songs that they play over the years. But I mean, sometimes too, then the radio stations will start playing different genres altogether, which is always kind of an interesting sort of thing. I know that in Los Angeles, for example, there was one station that used to be, my goodness, what was it? I think it was an oldies radio station, so music from the 60s and 50s, this sort of pop music from that time period. And then it was changed to be a Mexican radio station. So a lot of these like Mexican songs, in the Spanish language and everything else. And it just like a sign of the times, that's what's in demand. So, it's kind of interesting how these things change. Although the radio too is another question, like how many of us still listen to the radio? We all have our iPods or our MP3 players or, music on demand. All right, next question that we have. Do you think that pop music has artistic value? Elliot, what do you think? Do you think pop music has artistic value?
I think in some sense, yes, because time goes by and some pop music, which was pop music which was the music which was considering some years ago as a pop one, now in, we can say that it is classical pop music. For example, I mean the Beatles. Yes, for some times ago they were just young pop band, and nowadays it is, I don't know, classical classical example of that very music, that very kind of music. So I think yes, because for every time, for each time, its own music. So why not? Of course, it has got its own value because it's this kind of music expresses somehow the whole atmosphere of the contemporary time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What about, I guess, well, we'll talk more, a little more later, but what about you, Denise? What do you think about pop music? Do you think it has this artistic value? It kind of gets back to what we were discussing when we were talking about art, right? What is art and so forth and so on. What about your feelings on this pop music? What do you think about the artistic value of pop music?
Why not? Because part of pop music is a direct reference from a more previous, more classic music, and it's a part of evolution of art, of course. But also significant part of classic academic music. It also was a pop music many years ago, hundreds years ago. So part of modern pop music probably will be a next step of evolution of popular music and will I don't know how to will be a part of start of next generation of popular music. Also, some, not all, but some part of popular music is well built, well created as some interesting reference or trying to understand some classic melodies or ideas in other viewpoint, in other direction. So it's there's very well known in internet music group. It's postmodern jukebox, and the main idea of its music is them get some popular musics, modern musics, and remake it in the style of light jazz from different times, early 30 or 40, and it's very interesting. And it's hard to say that it's completely new art because it's a very well-known style and base is current, modern pop music. But result is very interesting. And yes, of course, it's all of this direction moving to the part of art. But what will be next classic, we can't understand now.
Yeah, I mean, it is because it's there's so much. I mean, there is so much that, well, any music, right? Any composer is composing, is doing something, and there are contributions that can be made, for this time that is now, and maybe even for later generations. I mean, if you look at a lot of those songs that first were coming out, like say in the 50s or 60s, a lot of them started in garages or, like they were just bands that kind of got out, started getting together and doing their thing, and then they ended up being picked up by record labels and basically set the trend for whole new styles of music, which is always really great. And anyway, I mean, if you think about that sort of thing, I think that yes, there definitely is. Yes, a lot of pop music has that goal of being played right on the radio. So it's going to stay with certain trends and stuff like that. But then there are a lot of trend setters as well. It's not just following the trend, it's also trying to set new trends. And we definitely see that. And I think that that's something that we can see as this artistic value. All right, next question. What are your feelings about people who enjoy classical music? Denise, you're one of these people. So what do you think about this whole classical music thing?
I think nothing because it's to me it's not any outstanding or strange or even marked by somewhere listening to classic music. Yes, classic music usually mm, have a more complicated structure or some not trivial way to build a melody than most part of classic music, but it's not anything extremely hard to perceive or understand. To me, it's more interesting questions who can listen and enjoy modern, some edge experimental music like atonic academic music, which has completely different harmony and completely different way to build a melody. To me, it will be very interesting to ask and try to understand how it's possible to listen big amount of such music, or some direction of noise music, for example, which has completely no any usual harmony as a music. But classic music is a very good thing. Only one thing, if people can listen classic music during work, it's very interesting for me. How it's possible to pay so many attention to perceive classical music and doing something well at the one time, which also needs some attention.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, no, I mean, classical music is definitely this genre, this type of music that is very, I guess, thought provoking. I think, we all kind of mentioned that we listen to it in one way or another. I mentioned how I have a difficult time listening to it, say at work or something like that, because it overstimulates me. But the same sort of thing that you mentioned there, Denise, with, what kind of people can listen to this modern stuff. A lot of times that is also very intense and overstimulating and distracting and what have you. I oftentimes find that music, I mean, at least for me, any kind of music, background music, is very distracting because I always want to listen. I know that a lot of people are able to passively listen to music, just like there are people who are able to passively watch television. And that's something that I just can't do. If something is on, my attention is going to be there. Maybe not all of my attention, but at least some of it. And for me, it's just not the most efficient sort of thing at all because it's just yeah, it's a distraction for me. But no, I think that people who enjoy classical music definitely appreciate music as it has traditionally understood or classically been understood to be, and that's these compositions with multiple instruments, with a composer who has pieced all of these different pieces of the music together, and with musicians, I mean, like these professional musicians who are playing their part to create a whole. So I think that there's a lot of appreciation that people who listen to classical music have, especially when, as you were, saying, Denise, with the modern music that we have, this other option of modern music that we have, it I mean, it's quite easy to compose a song nowadays with all the digital enhancements and tracking and everything else you can do. It's not like you have to, write by hand all the different pieces for these different instruments and then have them played together to understand this song. Now things can be, like, turn this knob here, this dial here, and all of a sudden you've got some sort of, funky sounding, I don't know what. So I think that that is an art too, definitely. But yeah, it's different. It's a different way of appreciating this art that we have. Ellie, what about you? What do you feel about people who? Did you already answer this question?
No, not yet.
Yeah, yeah, because I thought you did too. You already talked about classical music, but how do you feel about people who like classical music?
Classical music or some certain genres, or not? So pop music. No, no, pop music we have discussed. Yes, who enjoy classical music? Yes. Oh, okay. So enjoy. I think. How is it called? I respect. I highly respect because for me it was childhood dream to go to a music school, but unfortunately I haven't got enough skills for that. I don't know how is it called in English. Just I couldn't hear the sounds properly, or
Like tone deaf?
sorry,
Tone deaf?
tone deaf, not completely deaf, but
Not tone deaf. It's like when you don't hear those different sounds, right? Like
yes, I
yeah.
hear them, but not so correctly, not so good as it was. It was they wish to do that. So so I lost that opportunity, and then I of course I made all my children go to music school, and all of them of course hate that very music school as so classical situation. But for me, I still respect and adore people who can understand that very classical music, who know a lot of a lot about different composers. Yes, am I right? Composers.
Yes, composers. Yes,
Yes,
composers.
because sometimes I don't know them, so I think it is also a huge gap in my education. So I respect those who love and know classical music and can hear and can understand it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, definitely. All right. What about hybrid musical genres? How do you feel about hybrid musical genres, Elia?
Hybrid musical genres would hybrid. Okay,
Yeah, when you're mixing
different.
different things together, fusion or whatever you're gonna call it.
Yeah, I like it very much because I think that sometimes these hybrids are really very interesting and enjoyable to listen. Of course, there are lots of failures and lots of terrible things, but mostly, why not? Mostly, they are very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. What about you, Denise? What do you think? What is your feeling about hybrid music?
I try to find what is hybrid music, what it is.
Hybrid
Yes,
or
so
fusion,
yes,
fusion
and
music. This
next
sort of like
I
mix. Yeah.
find a Wikipedia page about fusion music. So yes, it's some mixed genres. To me, really, there is no, not at all, but most of music composition, most of songs are not a pure one genre. It's also some hybrid of genres. Because what is it? Essential rock. How we can split it from previous rockability, for example, or what is the difference of some early experiment with a harder sound in rock from a soft metal rock, for example. It's hard to find any pure genre. So really, all composition is some kind of mixed genre. But there are few groups or few composition where mixing of some hardly to build together thing in one composition is a part of idea, part of artistic way, and this is really interesting. For example, I meet one rather strange music album. It's some hybrid of ambient and classic music. It mixed of
Yeah,
this
that makes
different times and different parts. So yes, it's very interesting.
yeah.
But to me, it's uh, not a cozy probably music. I need to concentrate to joy of such music to get a pleasure because it's impossible to listen it during walk or in subway if you can't concentrate and feel how it works, how it builds.
Yeah. No, I mean it's something that's different, and not every, of course, like just like not every song is something gonna be something that you're gonna like. Not every hybrid or fusion or mixed style music is something you're gonna like. I personally enjoy when artists will take maybe one genre and try to explore and mix it with other things. And I think that we've seen a lot of examples of how this can be quite, I don't know, trendy too. I think about that one singer, what's her name, Maggie Rogers, who took this American folk sound and then mixed it with maybe kind of house music, and that sort of thing. And it's kind of an interesting mix that gained a lot of popularity and became quite popular just on Facebook, with the video of this whole sort of thing being passed around, because clearly we want to hear different things. We live in an age where we are able to explore and appreciate different styles and different cultures and everything else. And so our music tastes in many ways can reflect that. Another thing too, I mean, I know that a lot of times you'll find perhaps some sort of big pop song that's then being sung by someone, halfway around the world in maybe some other village or town or something, using their sort of intonation or their musical style or something like that. And it's, the sort of interesting thing that shows how universal music is. So I think that it's nice to hear all the sort of variations that we get in different types of music. And when we mix music together, we really can get some pretty amazing things. All right. Why do you think that popular music changes over the years? Elliot, why do you think that popular music changes over the years? I mean, what is popular music? I think that's a good question. Is it this top 40 or something like that? But the music that we hear on the radio today, for example, is quite different than what it was 10 years ago. Why do you think that this happens? And how often do you think that this happens?
I think it happens every year. While because of something like a music fashion, yes, when you have, I don't know, some music festivals, some, I don't know, music awards like Grammy for some pieces of music. So why does it change? I think it changes because of the general evolution of everything, of techniques, of speed of life, of, I don't know, political situations, of, I don't know, everything around what is going on around, I don't know, maybe different events in everyday life in different countries. So I think these all things are very closely connected.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. What about you, Denise? What do you think? Why do you think that this popular music is changing, evolving over the years? Why do you think?
First, I agree with Elia. It's a fashion, music fashion, of course, but also probably it's some. I meet a very interesting historical investigation. It's about some post-processing of music, because really all music we listen around us, it's not the same music as played in real. It's also post-processed by changing frequencies, replacing some accent in music, and in a big or small amount, but yes. And music in 50 and 60, the most energy was in a voice frequencies and pass frequencies. If you get average energy of sound energy of on each frequency, but after years, the all frequencies become more full of sound, and there was very simple purpose why, because there was all music stores in 60, for example, in America and England, start playing all new albums to increase the sales of albums. And more fat, more energy on all frequencies music attract people much. It can cover and all other sounds. So now we have a completely different spreading frequencies in music than, for example, before 50s or 60s. And it's also effects on current popular music. Next, it's a goal of music, because club music is rather mechanical music. It very strong, limited by rhythm, by possible melody, and so on. Also, it's how people perceive music, because popular music should be express some emotion which interesting and well perceived by people. So, for example, something is hardly to express by blues, but very simple to express by rap, for example. So, important thing for people also affects on popular music genres.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting how this music has changed over the years and what we listen to, and I mean, how much we're influenced by what we're hearing. Maybe not just on the radio, but like I said, what I was saying at the beginning, you know, when you go out to the store or something like that, you're going to hear the music too that's being played. And of course, you know, we know what songs we like based upon what we hear, but there are also a lot of songs that we wouldn't hear unless they were being played in a place where we have heard them. What we didn't really mention much is this whole use or influence of technology on modern music, on pop music. Because in the past, oh, what, 10 years or so, 15 years, maybe 20 if you stretch it out a long way, we have had digital music, right? We've had digital music where we can download songs, we can put them on our devices and make our own playlists and choose what we want to listen to. Whereas, you know, for so long, we were definitely were, like, say, our parents listened to what was on the radio. That's how they kind of knew what was going to be popular that year, right? The songs that they heard on the radio. And we've had the option, I mean, growing up, we had the option to go out and buy CDs or cassette tapes, or maybe copy cassette tapes from our friends, right? This is that sort of thing. I was a trendsetter, you know, when I was in school, and I had the ability to download songs and burn songs onto my disc. And I had a mini disc player that I would plug in and try to, you know, do this sort of thing. And, you know, technology has enabled us to share music much easier, and it's easily, right? Much more easily. Yeah, it's much easier now to share music with our friends, even with strangers. Say you're a musician and you want to get your song known by other people, you can put it on a website or a file sharing service or a music sharing site or something like that, and people are going to be able to hear your songs. And again, this is something that I'm sure we kind of see being reflected in the popular music that's being played on the radio too, because they can track to see what's popular, what sort of things are being visited, what sort of things are being downloaded. These are, the ability to track all this information, I think, is also influencing the sort of music that we hear. And remember, what was a couple years ago, there's all that dubstep, which was really big. And now I don't know, what is it? There are these songs that have kind of like a 70s feel or maybe a little bit of a jazzy feel to them. It's all of these different trends that we get. So I think that there are different eras of pop music and there are different appreciations of pop music that we get. And people also, I think nowadays, do like that sort of variety. And what they also like is doing something, hearing something different. This was probably back, when was it? Oh, in the late 90s. Like I say, I really enjoy music and I've got quite a good ear. I'm not tone deaf like you, Elia. I've got a very good ear. And I remember I was just, I don't know, in kind of disbelief, I guess what you could say, because there were 3 songs from 3 different genres of music. One was like alternative rock, one was rock, and one was sort of like Irish pop. Yeah, modern Irish folk-inspired pop. So 3 completely different genres of music, and yet there were 3 songs, and they seriously sounded the same to me. The musical riffs inside, there was something that was just telling me, my gosh, okay, this is 1997, and all the music sounds the same. This is really, really weird. So I think that what we see now is that young people, especially, they don't want to hear every song that sounds exactly the same, because I think, they're probably able to press the repeat button or skip button or, search for similar artists, and they can hear that themselves so often. So I think we do kind of get that appreciation for new things as time goes by. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see what will happen in the future, but I think the technology is definitely going to have a very important role in this further evolution of pop music and what have you. All right, do you think it is cool to listen exclusively to top 40 hits, or do you compile your own playlist? And what's on your playlist if you have one? Denise, let's start with you.
For me, both things is rather cool or crazy on the one hand, because sometimes I try to listen some charts or sheets to understand how it's built, what the trends, why some musics are in top of charts and why some is not. But really, it's completely mystery to me how really charts selected, for example. I don't know how to explain this more right way. Because yes, I understand that is very popular music, but why this composition are popular? Why some composition are more popular than other? It's completely out of my mind. Also, compiling of own playlist, I have numerous attempts to build some playlist, and each time I hope that I have some good result. I start and listen it and find that no, that not that I want. I want to listen some other composition that I haven't in this playlist. So I usually simply put a few albums which are interesting for me in my smartphone, and listen it, and sometimes change with other more interesting or something I want to listen again from my collection, something such way. So to me, it's completely impossible to build a playlist and not to think, no, I want to listen completely different songs.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that makes sense. What do you think, Ade? I mean, what about you? Do you think that it's better to listen to the music that's on the radio, or do you have your own sort of playlist?
Of course, I have my own playlists, but and I listen to what is on the radio, but I choose my own ones and try to mix them. For example, while I joke in the morning, I always play my own list, and it depends in in speed I want. In I don't know, sometimes you want to listen to this composition and sometimes to another one. It depends on my personal mood too. So it it is different all the time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whatever the top 40 is, maybe there's some songs that I'm gonna like. Definitely, I'm not gonna like all of them. And there's no way that I would listen to a song simply because it was a popular song. If I like the song and it's popular, that's great. But vice versa, no, it's not gonna happen like that. I definitely like to create my own playlists, and they are so random, so varied. It's kind of crazy, come to think of it. Multiple languages, multiple genres, multiple time periods. You never know what you're going to get when you go through my iPod, right? It's going to be kind of just about anything, just about anything. I think it's kind of interesting that way. All right, guys, let's ask this next question. What is the last album that you have listened to? Denise, what is the last album that you have listened to? Have you listened to an album lately?
Ah, I was mute.
Denise? Oh, you're
Yes, I was mute. I thought to because I remember a group name, but I can't remember album name. So I tried to find it again. The last album I listened was a group Mandala Band. Name of album was Ancestors. I meet one song randomly named Babylon. And for me, it was interesting that was a completely different idea of song from well-known Bonnie M, as I remember, song River of Babylon. So I tried to listen others albums and songs, and was interesting. But I'm not sure I will listen to many in future. But was very interesting experience.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Eddie, what about you? What's the last album you've listened to?
Just today I have listened to Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, his concert somewhere. So I don't remember what album was it. So it was live concerts, but I don't remember which one. Before that, I have listened to Depeche Mode, some middle album. I also don't remember which one exactly, but some middle one, not the latest one, some of the previous ones.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that sounds good. The last album, I don't really listen to albums that much, honestly. The last album I listened to, this is kind of crazy, but it was this old one from the 90s that I found in my room at my mom's house under my bed. And I thought, oh, I haven't listened to this since forever. And I put it in the car radio while I was driving. I thought, oh, okay. Well, what do you know? There's there's some music. And it was, I can't remember what was it called, Bewitched. I don't know if you remember them. There's this Irish group, like pop group, which was quite big for maybe a year or two back in the late 90s. And I thought, okay, it's a blast to the past sort of situation. But yeah, normally I don't listen to albums anymore. I'm listening to to just songs, random songs that I like and listen to in that sense. All right, you guys, I don't know what else, anything else we can think about music wise. Edia, anything else, any questions that you might be able to ask about this?
I don't know, maybe some favorite compositions.
Yeah, that's
For
good. Favorite
something like-
compositions. What do you think? Edia? What about favorite compositions?
So it's a question to me, yes? Okay. So actually I think I don't have some one favorite composition. But I think, I really, for example, if to consider some contemporary music, I really like some pieces of deep house, but I don't know the compositions at all. Just I know that they are, sometimes they are very interesting things just to listen because the composition is really interesting. And as for favorite one, I don't know. For many years, so Depeche Mode were my favorite. They were my favorite band. But I now I'm not sure that they are the favorite ones.
Okay. And Denise, what about you? Do you have any favorites?
It's hard to distinguish or to extract one favorite. I have a few favorite albums, like Treasure of Cocteau Twins music group. I sometimes return back and listen it again because I don't know why, but it's very, very emotional for me. I sometimes I feel in some kind of synchronization of emotion in this album. Also, I'm fond of rock operas like Jesus Christ Superstar or slightly less famous War of the Worlds. And this is also music which I return back sometimes and listen it again and again.
Okay, yeah. I don't know, like I'm trying to think about favorites and stuff like that, and it's really hard for me to choose because when it comes to anything, my tastes change so much and there are things that maybe I like today that maybe all right, in a week I'm going to be tired of, and I kind of like to listen to different compositions, different artists and everything else, so different songs. I like that variety. And I like coming back to things that I haven't heard in a long time. I think that's really kind of good to do, to appreciate things not just in the moment, but over time too, which is quite nice. Guys, all right, what do you think? I mean, Denise, do you have any other questions you can kind of think of when it comes to music? Anything that's coming to your mind?
It's probably not questions, it's some kind of topic to discuss probably. It's about how technology change way to distribute or way to listen music. Because a few times ago I meet very interesting project. It's one of the Yandex Group project called Yandex Radio. And from there is few general radio, but the most interesting thing is your own radio. You can listen composition one by one and like or dislike them. And after a few times, algorithm trying to understand your choices and find the people with the same profile of choices and suggest you completely different composition which are interesting for people with choices was similar to you. It is a great way to discover some new things. And after some time, this really works well. And
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know any other way to find interesting and some kind of the same music another way. Because current definition of genre is so wide that sometimes the music in one genre is completely different thing.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, no, the technology really does help us to be able to find other stuff and get it to our libraries. I mean, I can't even remember what the name of the song was. There was one song that I really, really liked. I heard it on a television show. This was back in the 90s. And I didn't know what the name of that song was. And I was asking around everyone, and no one knew what the name of that song was. And of course, nowadays it's so easy because now if there's a song that you like that's in a TV show, you would just go like type, okay, what was the name of that song in this TV show? And of course, in some forum or some fan group or something like that, you're going to be able to find it. And back then it wasn't a possibility. But I remember I bought albums, different albums, trying to find that song, and I never found it. But eventually I did. Okay. Are you writing in Kazakh? No. Let us write. Elia?
What titles?
Titles of our compositions, because some of them I haven't caught.
Wait, what compositions?
Favorite ones.
Like songs or?
Yes, songs, albums, whatever.
Oh my goodness. All right. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know, Elia. Like I'm trying to think like one. Okay, I'm trying to think of one.
Okay, if it's not,
I'm gonna think of. I'll think of one song.
Difficult. So, and it is high time to think about the next theme. Am I right?
It is. It is. It is. What should we do, guys, for next time? Any ideas?
Probably yes. We can discuss some there is rather wide topic, but to my mind probably it will be interesting. It's futurism. Can we predict how world will change in next years or next 10 years?
Wait, what is the topic?
Can we, no, it's a common topic, it's futurism. Can we predict how world will change? What is the interesting direction? What's important? Yes, it's but not yes, but futures in case of prediction of important thing for each of us or some thing we are afraid of.
That sounds like an interesting topic. What do you think?
Also, we can mix few questions about how people think about nowadays, some years ago, 10 years ago, or even in the beginning of 20th century, because we live after in the beginning of 21st century.
Right.
And some prediction was really crazy and interesting to compare.
Predictions and reality, right? Predictions
yes.
and reality.
And our next predictions.
That sounds good. Like this whole sort of futurism with the future. What do you think, Elia?
So how can we formulate it in short? So predictions and reality in general.
I don't know. What do you want to call it? Predictions and reality, futurism. What do you want to call it?
Yeah, what think important for each of us in future? What think we are afraid in future?
The future. Let's call it the future. The future.
We have something like that, not?
Yes, we touch this topic.
We talked about artificial intelligence. We talked about.
So we talked about artificial intelligence. So now we are going to talk about
the future, like the whole sort of predictions of the future, like the whole concept of the future.
Not only technology, social change, and probably some desired thing in a more common way.
Oh, relationship.
Yes. Yes, social trends, for example, fashion trends, probably.
What do you think, Elia? What do you think?
Okay, yes, why not?
Okay.
Okay.
Because
All
it's, we discuss such big amount of topics, it's hard to.
It is hard, I
Well,
know, because we've talked for about so many things. It's one of those. All right, but I think that one is interesting. Let's try that. Let's try that, you guys.
Perhaps maybe there will be also some home task to prepare for us, because I think it's a good idea to be focused on some topic more
Yes, I want you to write a composition, one paragraph about what you think will be in the future. Can you do that? Write.
Okay, right, and then where to send? Or just to publish somewhere? What is so to write and to share, or just to share in Google Docs in charts? So what are your suggestions?
Seems Daniela is offline.
Okay, I will ask her. So what is your opinion, Denise? What is the most convenient way to
You
share?
guys, are you still there?
Yes, we
Welcome
are
back.
still.
I I exited. I was trying to type in the chat box and I ended up closing the window instead. All right, so write one paragraph about what you think the future will
I
Mm-hmm.
be
will
like.
try, but writing some non-technical text in English is hard for me.
Try, you guys.
But I
There's
will
no.
try.
All right, just try. Let's just go to try. All right, you guys. See you next time, and we'll be talking about the future.
So, and we will share then just links in Google Docs. Yes, what do you think? Is it convenient?
Yeah, that sounds good. That's good. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, you guys. See you.
See
Or
you.
listen to
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Thank
Again,
you.
bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.